What's going on, people? Welcome to the ASTROLABE, brought to you by King Pilled. I am back. I'm here. I still have a face. I couldn't feel half of it for half the day. It was like, I've had to get like dental work done before and had to get some numbing and everything, but I don't know what she did this time, but my whole ear was numb. I tried to put my AirPod in and it was like, it felt really odd. I almost couldn't tell that I was putting it in later. But I'm back now. I've got more of a tooth than I did, although some of it is no longer tooth material, and soon there will be, it'll be an even larger tooth, but it'll be even less constituted of tooth material. I'm going back on Monday for a crown. Yeah, it went well. Not too bad. I was there for a couple hours, hour and a half, 2 hours. I strongly recommend this dentist. I should have gotten the name. But her name is Jamie Knox, I want to say. I can't remember the name of it. If my wife is listening, she might drop the name in the chat. But very strongly recommend them. We went there a couple of weeks ago for our to get it checked out and assessed and find out what I needed. That's when we scheduled the appointment for the root canal. And when I was there, it was all three of us, Eastwood and Amy and I. And he had a little stuffed puppy dog, little Dalmatian toy that he was playing with while he was in there. And he left it there. None of us realized. I guess Amy said she was wondering what had happened to it, but none of us realized he'd left it there. This was, I don't know, 3 weeks ago, something like that. And they identified that it belonged to us and that I was going to be coming back. So they just kept it in a little cupboard there in the I don't know, operating room, whatever you would call it. And when I walked in, they had it sitting on the little counter there, little shelf. They said, "Yeah, I think your son left this here last time." I was blown away, absolutely blown away. Incredible professionalism, and feels like living in a civilization. That was what I was thinking I'm the very cool guy that happened to me, and I sat back into the dental chair and pondered my podcast on the internet, where I talked to my friend who has a podcast on the internet, and we talk about civilizational capital. And I was like, man, this is what civilizational capital feels like. Like I'm a person. I'm a person. My son is a person to them. We exist. We matter. I knew I was in good hands. Let's keep that. Let's hold on to whatever bit of that we can. Let's see how much more of it we can create. She said that she didn't actually have to do as much drilling as she might have had to, because I'd basically done all the work for her. She said there's been an open portal directly to the nerve, was what she said, and I was like, oh well, that's why it sucked. But seems to be no pain now, at least directly related to the tooth. My jaw is just killing me, probably in part from sitting there like for 2 hours. Axeman says, nothing makes a grown man feel like a complete bitch than having problems with teeth. Yes. Yeah. It's like this little fucking thing in my mouth, and I'm just like, oh, can't think, hard to sleep, can't eat anything. And I think that's been a related thing, is as it's gotten worse over the last few weeks. And I think psychologically, knowing that the appointment was coming, I was just like, all right, just got to get through. And it was bad enough, and it's the way it was broken was such that if I ate literally anything solid, then it was just going to get wedged down in there. And I apologize if this is too graphic for some of you, but there was no I would have to basically dig it out with a toothbrush after I ate anything solid. And I could try to kind of keep stuff to this side for the most part, but I have a weird mouth where on this side where the bad tooth was, these teeth will touch, but none of the teeth on this side actually touch. It's been this way my entire life. So chewing on exclusively on this side is kind of hard, and just instinctively, 36 years or whatever of muscle memory, I keep pushing stuff over there, and so I basically just given up on eating anything solid. I had a few solid things here and there, solid-ish, but I ate some fruit and had a couple of Taco Bell burritos and cheesy roll-ups. Those were soft enough, but so I think I've been kind of a little cranky, and my wife's been like, "What's wrong with you?" And I was thinking, I'm probably pretty low blood sugar. I'm sure I'm drinking a crap load of milk and apple juice and and putting sugar and maple syrup in it and trying to keep the calories up. But I'm sure I'm not getting enough, and very little protein. I'm sure. Well, I guess the milk's got quite a bit of protein in it. But anyway, so feeling much better now. I actually ate a little something earlier and could chew just fine. Looking forward to getting. I have another one that needs to be done right out here in the front. Got to try to get that one scheduled as well, but it will be a little while before we can do that. All right. Well, welcome to the ASTROLABE. 7 minutes in. Got 34 watching, 15 likes. Do me a favor and hit the like button. It's good to see you guys here in the chat. 1360 Survivor says, tip for the pain, antibiotics until you can get to a dentist. Painkillers don't work. I can confirm that painkillers don't work. Antibiotics, that is a good tip. Actually, my wife right this minute is at the pharmacy picking up some amoxicillin. Here, I'll get a little more graphic for you guys. She said that it was really inflamed down there. Like it was badly inflamed, and she gave me some the technical explanation scientifically as to what sort of emia is, whatever it is, and it could just in one ear and out the other. But the takeaway that I had from it was she said is she was scraping and cleaning and buzzing and whatever she was doing in there and cleaning it out. It was just bleeding like a motherfucker. So she said there's probably be a good idea. There's still a lot of inflammation and stuff in there, so she said it'd be a good idea to take an antibiotic. So I'm going to get some amoxicillin. All right. Well, it's good to talk to you guys here in the afternoon, 3:30 local time. I've got quite a bit of stuff. I thought this was going to be a shorter show than usual, but I wound up with definitely a lot of stuff. And I've got a handful of kind of short, quick things, so maybe it'll go a little quicker. But first thing is we just some cheap fun. This is just very low hanging fruit, just cheap fun. But it made me laugh. I enjoyed watching it, so maybe it'll make some of you guys laugh too. Oh, first of all, this is he says I would watch a feature length documentary about the two women who voiced the minions in Italian.
Blues si One Main Stanley Capitan Bellicaman bla 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 bla. Bella volata. Ba 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 ba. Bam pam peanut peanut ba 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 pam 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 pam. Hello, peanut?
Ah, sì, per favore.
Peanut. Peanut. Okay, vamos.
This combines two things that I find greatly entertaining. Minions and voice acting. I've always thought that voice acting would be a ton of fun, especially with like really goofy stuff like this, where you can get into like funny voices and playing around. Part of that's from growing up with the dad that I did, who is the master of making silly voices and entertaining kids, and he was always very entertaining to me. So I think I picked up on some of that. Now I do it for Eastwood to make him laugh. But okay, here's something. That was like your extremely rated G humor. Now we're gonna get some that is not. So this baseball player here, Jarren Duran, he's a Duran. I don't know. I don't watch baseball anymore. He's a Red Sox player. He's at a Red Sox game, so he's at a home game. Bottom of the sixth inning, they're down 10-0. So he's at his home stadium, losing to a conference rival, and he's down 10-0. And then this happens. So in case you couldn't hear, the fan was saying, tennis racket, you need a tennis racket. And he called him a British cigarette. So, of course, after this, he had to completely prostrate himself and engage in a humiliation ritual about how he really is a good person, and he is so ashamed of himself for causing so much harm to people. And the team issued a statement like distancing themselves from him, and so he's going to have to go through the whole 9 yards, because sports media is still probably the most completely fagotized media outlet or media industry. However, the people have spoken. So this is like one of those Rotten Tomatoes things where the critics give it like 8%, and then the audience gives it like 93. He is now, his jersey sales have skyrocketed, and I found an article about it, and it's kind of funny. It's Fox Sports. So this is a Fox publication. Red Sox Jarren Duran has top-rated jersey on MLB Shop after anti-gay slur. He will return. Oh, that's right. He was suspended for 2 games for it as well. Despite getting blowback for using an anti-gay slur over the weekend, the support for Jarren Duran has been astronomical. The Boston Red Sox outfielder was caught using an anti-gay slur at a heckling fan during the game against the Houston Astros on Sunday. Duran made the remark as he stepped to the plate in the 6th inning. A fan shouted at him that he needed a tennis racket. The player yelled back, "Shut up," followed by "Faggot." You fucking faggot. I'm not going to say the slur. Duran apologized, but he still served a 2-game suspension. His game checks for Monday and Tuesday will be donated to PFLAG, a nonprofit that supports the LGBTQ plus community. So not only did he have to publicly humiliate himself, not only did he get suspended, but he also had 2 of his game checks confiscated and given to an organization dedicated to destroying his society. So we've talked about the, I'm not going to read you his statement. The fewer people who see that, the better. We've talked about the disparity between sports media and sports fans. And this is a great example of it. He goes out and calls a guy a faggot, and they pick it up on live TV, and everyone's like, "Hey, that guy's cool. I want to go buy his jerseys." This is very good. This is why I believe the sports ball community is a community that we need to colonize. We need to, they will greet us as liberators. We need to make our inroads and take it back. The sports are beautiful American pastimes. They need to be American. They need to be populated by white boys who are experiencing white boy summer eternally. Yeah, an indulgence. So there's a black pill in this story, and you could choose to focus on that one if you want, but I like the white pill at the end of it. I saw Screwed Up Rebellion in here said that he only watches the Astros. I, unfortunately, as a longtime resident of Seattle, am contractually obligated to permanently boot you from the stream. Nothing personal. I'm just kidding. $5 super chat here from Matthew Ivy. Cold, hard American cash. He says, starting to notice a huge divide between the UK and US dissident right. UK so blackpilled they've started lashing out at the US for not being doomers. Yes. I don't know if you watch regularly or not, but I've commented on this in the past that I think a lot of the blackpilling doomer spirit that is expressed in American politics is something that has kind of, I'd say inadvertently on both sides, been a product of US or American dissident right, whatever people, spending too much time around the Europeans. The European spirit is leaking into us. And I know there's a lot of cope happening to the contrary, that somehow things aren't as bad in Europe and particularly in the UK as they are here. Okay. If you want to tell yourselves that, if you're living there, I'm not going to hold shit against you. You're living there. You're experiencing it. You're happy to believe whatever you want about it. But I guarantee you, there's not a single person who, there's not a single American who a real American, I might add, a true American. There's not a single true American who would be like, "Oh yeah, I want to go to Europe. I'm going to go live in Europe. I'm going to go experience all that." No. So yeah, I think part of the no fucking blackpilling mantra needs to be the recognition that ultimately we are going to have to save our European brothers. We're going to have to save them from their occupiers. We're going to have to liberate them. First, we have to liberate ourselves. But once we've done that, then we must graciously liberate them. We're going to let bygones be bygones. We're going to liberate them and let them experience some true American freedom, American culture. As an example, this is a perfect segue, man. Professional podcasting. Speaking of American freedom, could one of you Europores, could you go do this?
Good evening, cowards. Nice to see a bunch of fat, ugly women. What?
Excuse you.
What? They're fat, ugly women is what they are.
We're not having that.
You don't have to buy.
Hey, free speech.
It's called free speech. Buy.
That's not free speech. That's insulting.
Buy. That's good. Shut up. And we wonder why children are retarded, stupid today. Buy.
That's not free speech. That's insulting.
Buy. That's good. Shut up. And we wonder why children are retarded, stupid today. We wonder why when we have these pathetic people here called teachers the children's mind. That's why you people don't have the brains to see that this could be hurting children of the future who are going to grow up and be just as dumb as you.
Oh, my favorite part.
That's not free speech. That's insulting.
Bye. That's good. Shut up.
That's not free speech. That's insulting.
Bye. That's good. Shut up.
That's not free speech. That's insulting. That's good. Shut up. This guy needs to be honorary American of the Year. Can you imagine? Can you imagine some limey going into whatever their equivalent stuffy little community meeting thing is, going in there and opening with, "Hi, you bunch of fat, ugly women." So, yeah, someone needs to find this guy and offer him some whatever he wants. Give him whatever he wants. If he wants a life completely off the grid, where he doesn't have to deal with anyone and he can hang out with like his cows and his dog or something, then pay for it. If he wants to be a spokesperson of White Boy Summer or something, then we need to make that happen. We got to get to him before Black Rifle Coffee does. Imagine being able to do that. Imagine having the resources to do that sort of thing. When someone does something you want, give them a social approval. Be able to demonstrate that social approval in a patronage sort of way. Imagine being able to influence the culture in that way. Or if alternatively, because of that, he was getting harassed by the HOA or something. And you could go step in and bully the HOA into compliance. Make them stand down. Go buy them a new house or something. That would be some serious cultural power. We will get there. And again, professional live streamer here. Perfect segue. We will get there on the backs of this spirit.
If you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that okay?
A banger! Absolute screaming banger. You know, all the people that are complaining about, we don't have the 2016 meme energy anymore. Oh, it's so boring. There's no energy anymore. And we got shit like this getting dropped every day. Remember the Jared Taylor edit from Fraser Payne on Twitter, doing pull-ups, earning Hitler points. The meme energy is next level. It is so good. Now it's largely video. Like schizo edits have become the new vector for. I mean, they were back then, but they've gone to a whole new level. The meme energy is off the charts, but people are just so determined to live in doom and gloom that they will sit here and post on a platform where all of this is happening, like, "Hey guys, where is everyone? Oh, why does everything suck around here? I don't know, maybe because you suck. Maybe you think Trump's campaign is shitty because you're shitty. You ever think about that? This is beautiful. It's so beautiful. There's people who are making this with large accounts, with large reach. They're being retweeted and engaged with by titans of industry. There's entire cottage industries sprouting up on the backs of this kind of meme industry. Shout out to the Gundo boys. Don't give me this bullshit about the 2016 meme energy is gone. No, it's better than ever. But a lot of people have just dedicated themselves to blackpilling. And they're walking around like with blindfolds on saying, "Oh, I can't see anything." Yeah, take the frickin' blindfold off. Pull your head out of the ground. The energy is fantastic up where I'm at. We got great people around us doing awesome shit. And my Twitter timeline is primo. It is dialed in. I get so much good shit. I have so many bookmarks, I can't even get through them all. I've got to try to make them all make sense because they're all completely different from each other. It's great out here right now. It's kind of like when people will say, there's people that complain about Twitter being, "Oh, this is a hell site," or "Oh, all the porn bots," or and every time somebody complains about Twitter, I wonder if they realize that they are they're looking in a mirror. The site will show you what you want it to. That's the beauty of it. So if you want the site to show you a bunch of blackpilling, it very much will, because it's out there. And you can train it to do that based on the stuff that you choose to go out of your way to engage with, the things you talk about, the language that you use. What you put out, you're going to get back tenfold. So whenever you see a guy who's complaining about the porn on Twitter, you know what he's watching on Twitter. I never see porn on Twitter. I don't remember the last time that I saw anything, like even a porn bot. Like the weird ones that would DM you or like follow you randomly or whatever. That happened for like a brief blip. Never happened since then. The platform has been completely changed in a very, very good way. And it will produce back to you what you tell it to. You can train it. And there's a lesson here. There's a deep lesson here. Because life is the same way. Whatever you put out into it, however you train life to treat you is how it's going to treat you. Speaking of fantastic edits, this segue is not quite as good. There's another story later on that would have been better, would have fit better with this, but yeah, we'll have to break the streak here. The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, as it was filmed in 1982, seen by AI. This is brilliant. So they fed it Lord of the Rings. You'll see throughout this, they fed it Lord of the Rings, the existing movie, but said, produce this as if it was filmed in 1982.
In a world overshadowed by evil, one man will rise to stand against the coming darkness. From the visionary mind of J.R.R. Tolkien comes a tale of magic and destiny like you've never seen before. The Dark Lord Sauron seeks to reclaim his lost power through the One Ring. This winter, the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, brings together a fellowship bound by fate. Gandalf the Grey, a beacon of wisdom. Aragorn the King-to-be, a ranger cloaked in mystery. Legolas the Watchful, an elf whose eyes miss nothing. Gimli the Stout, a dwarf with the heart of a giant. And Boromir the Bold, a man torn between honor and desire. Accompanying Frodo are Sam, his devoted friend, and the mischievous hobbits Merry and Pippin. From the safety of the Shire, through enchanted woods and daunting mountains, their journey to destroy the One Ring unfolds. They face creatures foul and fair, traverse landscapes both menacing and majestic, and discover the thin line between light and dark. As Sauron's shadow grows, so does their legend. Be prepared for the cinematic event of the year, only in theaters.
Isn't that freaking cool? It's funny to me how there's several of these characters look very much like certain people that I don't know if however they prompted it. I don't know if they prompted it and told them to use a certain person as a model or something. It's obviously going to be modeled off of the actors from the original movie because you could tell they fed it the movie because there's so many shots in there that are obviously inspired by shots from the movie. But there's so many of these characters in here look like kind of an amalgamation of 80s movies characters. You've got a little bit of like Rambo in here. This shot reminds me of a Rambo shot. There was a few others that doesn't really, it gives me a little Gremlins kind of. But there are some of these shots of some of these characters here look like so you've really got Sean Bean in that one. They look like it's drawing from a backlog or it's drawing from a catalog of similar characters. It understands what 80s art is, and it's drawing from a catalog of character archetypes. It's kind of interesting if you were to study through this and pick out which characters or which actors or actresses' faces were the models that it used. It'd be kind of interesting to figure out how it's doing that, like how it's picking out that archetype to kind of blend these different characters. What is like using that and seeing, that's one of the most interesting things I think with these large language models is figuring out what sorts of patterns they see. Not necessarily just like using them to answer questions or whatever, but looking on kind of a meta way, shout out Meta Prime, kind of like on a meta way, looking at the patterns the way that it forms patterns. So looking at the pattern of the patterns that it forms and like studying and understanding how it's doing that. What that tells us about it, the technology itself or reality or whatever. Yeah, it definitely has Dark Crystal vibes, big time. Yeah, I find that stuff really interesting. Okay. Another little one here. So this chick, Emily, she says, "Who's afraid of little old me is for the girls who are always the butt of the joke in their friend group." And this chick says, "Fun fact, when I was 12, my friends orchestrated a fake reality show rose ceremony where they publicly voted me out of the friend group at lunchtime. It was so brutal that almost all of them tracked me down in adulthood to apologize." This is like some Gitmo shit. Women are absolutely ruthless to each other. And it says, "Boys, give each other scabs, scrapes, and bruises. Girls, give each other emotional scars that never heal." Women, what's wrong with you? All three of you in here, you have to tell me, why do you do this to each other? Why do you inflict this upon one another? There was a video I should have included here. I wonder if I could find it real quick. I tweeted it yesterday of there's a girl walking around. I retweeted it, so I don't think it's going to be there. I won't be able to find it. It was a girl it was a bunch of different girls who were dressed in like, I don't even know what you would call it. Like these very nice, modest, like farm dresses or something. I don't know what exactly the style is, but it looked like the way women would have been dressed in, I don't know, 20s, 30s, 40s, something like that. Forgive me for my lack of fashion history knowledge. But they were walking around dressed like that with like, the little gloves and the little heels and stuff. Very tasteful. It very much stands out. It's striking just how much they stand out from the crowd around them. And the majority of the women were like, there was a number of women who was like, hey, I like your dress. And they said something very affirming and approving to them, or they were just like staring at them. And it was interesting to me watching that, because the reason that women don't dress, like, women dress for other women. Like women put their makeup on for other women. They're not doing it for men. They're doing it for other women. And so, like, the reason that women don't dress like that is because women don't dress like that. Women didn't stop dressing like that because men don't want them to dress like that. Women do it for women. But then the women who want to dress like that, they're like, well, I want to be able to dress this way, but society won't let me. It's not normal, it's not fashionable or whatever. And it's women who are preventing women from doing that. This is entirely an intra-feminine dispute. Men could not care less. Like, if women were walking around dressed like that, the men wouldn't be out there like lobbying for the women to strip, lobbying for them to wear fewer clothes. They wouldn't care. You're just going to wear whatever you're going to wear. The women are the ones who lobbied for, whether openly or just like culturally, they lobbied for the degradation of those standards, and they're held captive by their own species. It's such a fascinating, curious species. Okay, another little one here. Reminder that Tucker is our boy. Very good conversation. This was on his conversation with Dave Smith. It was very, very good. It was interesting. There was a few spots that they blacked out with just the TV went off the air sound that said this part of the conversation was regarding the V word, and YouTube doesn't want us to air that. But this is one of the clips from it.
Like, Walls raised the taxes on nicotine pouches. There's no evidence, by the way, that nicotine is a carcinogen. It's not. It's all a lie. And what they hate about nicotine is it raises testosterone levels. They even suppress that fact. That's a fact on Google. Google nicotine and testosterone and see how many results it takes you to get to the core truth, which is, yes, nicotine use raises testosterone levels. Man, it is way, way down. And that's not an accident. They're afraid of testosterone.
100%. That's like completely right.
That's perfect. They got the little shot of him tucking in the lip pillow, which, speaking of, yeah, that's the good stuff right there. I am on Team Tucker all the way. Okay, another funny little story. You guys, I think I know my audience well enough to know that you're going to appreciate a video like this of people who live in San Francisco being really annoyingly inconvenienced by distinctly San Franciscan technology.
That sound of honking is waking up neighbors lately in this South of Market neighborhood.
I get woken up at, 4 o'clock in the morning, and I look down and I'm convinced now it is coming from the Waymos.
Neighbors shared videos of driverless Waymo cars filing into the lot and backing into spots, which appears to trigger honking from the other Waymos.
The cars are robotic and they're honking at each other, and there's no one in the cars when it's happening, and that's absurd. Would like them to stop honking their horn at 4 in the morning repeatedly.
In San Francisco, Alyssa Gord, NBC, Bay Area News.
The meme potential here is really, really good. The first one I thought of is the one, of the soy jack who's laying in bed and he's like got his pillow over his head and he's like, and there's all the noise outside. And so you just have outside just like a bunch of Waymos that are just honking away. Honk, honk. And then of course you got the, I don't know if you guys remember, I don't know if you're old enough to remember the time when honk was a reference to the tribe. But you got a little honk honk thing you could fit in there. Yeah, this was I was thinking of something with doing, I think there's like a thing of Beaker or something. Beaker from the Muppets, where he's doing some honking thing, some honking skit, and I was trying to think of the memes that you could make off of this, but I'm not the meme maker. I'll just put it out there for those of you who are, and you can run with it. I think there's great potential on this one. angry San Franciscans crying underneath their pillows because their stupid driverless cars won't stop honking in the middle of the night. Make all the cars brown. Okay. So I shared with you guys this company, Sticker Mule, the one that had they did the Cybertruck giveaway. Their CEO is very outspokenly pro-Trump, like Hispanic guy, and I wanted to see if one of his videos was close here to the top, but they've got a great little bit going on now. I love this is awesome. You have a pro-Trump brand that's some Sticker Mule. I think they do like screen printing and that sort of thing. Their social media game is just fantastic. So they've got a familiar face who apparently is the new CEO.
Hey Rick, Sticker Mule just fired their CEO for supporting Trump.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and they voted you in as the new CEO.
Wow, really?
You're in charge now. What do you want to do first?
Name the f***ing hot sauce after me!
Customize your MuleSauce. Get the same amazing flavor of MuleSauce customized with your brand. Select a quantity, upload your design, and check out. Within a few hours, you'll get an online proof showing how your bottles will look. With easy ordering, fast turnaround, and the most kick-ass flavor, Sticker Mule is the internet's favorite place for ordering private white label hot sauce.
So I have no relationship to these guys. I just think that their brand is awesome. Says our last CEO effed things up. I'm fixing them. Introducing white label hot sauce. Go fucking buy it now. Ricky Berwick. 20 people who repost this win $500. Follow us so we can DM you. So I'm going to retweet it just because I think it's cool. And hey, it'd be cool to get $500. They're very openly pro-Trump. They did a Cybertruck giveaway a while back. And they just a really cool brand. So go patronize them if you would. Okay. Now get into a little bit of serious stuff here. Chris Rufo says, great work at JT Lonsdale. Who's JT Lonsdale? Well, this is Joe Lonsdale, founder of Palantir and 8VC. This is one of the core PayPal mafia guys that I dug into for a little while. He actually was, I think, the original chair for the Seasteading Institute, and he's the one who introduced Peter Thiel and Patrick Friedman. So he's got very, very libertarian background, about as libertarian as you could get, and successful venture capitalist, investor. He's got a really interesting YouTube channel. I think it's called The American Optimist, where he talks to guys from the community. He talked to Base Beth Jesus in one interview. It was really good. Very interesting guy to follow. So, and he's also been, I think he's got some major position with the super PAC that Elon and the other guys are all donating to for Trump. So Chris Rufo, we're seeing a little crossover here with the PayPal mafia guys and the, I don't know, right-wing activist group. He says, great work at JT Lonsdale, and Rolling Stone should be a little more accurate. The point is to make crime a crime. So the title of the headline from this article is How the Right Made Homelessness a Crime. How one venture capitalist Trump supporter peddled a crackdown on unhoused people all the way to the Supreme Court. He says, Rufo says, cities should never allow people to camp in the streets, shoot up drugs, shoplift, and perpetrate violence, accept housing and treatment, or face the consequences. So I'm not going to read the entire article to you guys because it's really insufferable. It's written by a woman and an extremely shit libby woman at that. You can tell just by the title, Inside the Right's War on the Homeless. There's Lonsdale looking like a Chad. So, of course, you have to start off with the story of the homeless guy, and we have to get real sad about it. It says 3 years ago, Austin reinstated a ban on downtown homeless encampments through a ballot referendum campaign financed by the city's elite, including Joe Lonsdale, the venture capitalist, now leading a pro-Trump super PAC. Since then, the city has issued more than 900 citations for the crimes of sleeping, lying down, or pitching a tent in public spaces. But the estimated number of people without housing only continued to rise as Austin saw some of the nation's steepest pandemic rent hikes. Yada, yada, yada. That hasn't stopped an Austin-based think tank founded by Lonsdale from holding the city up as a success story in order to cast the growing number of tent cities nationwide as a problem of lax enforcement, not rising rents. Staff of Lonsdale's Cicero Institute have crisscrossed the country to sell state legislatures on the idea that Austin's ban is working and that other states can best address rising homelessness by criminalizing it more thoroughly. The group made the same case in an amicus brief to the Supreme Court this year. After a majority ruling in June gave cities the green light to sweep tent cities, regardless of whether alternative shelter is available, Lonsdale declared victory, thanking conservative legal activist Leonard Leo, who engineered the judiciary's rightward lurch, for his, quote, advice in support of our brief. In the wake of the Supreme Court ruling, California Governor Gavin Newsom last month ordered state agencies to begin clearing homeless encampments, a possible move to ward off the kind of right-wing attacks Lonsdale has helped lead as Newsom gears up for a future Democratic presidential run. So notice how this is framed. This is evil Joe Lonsdale and Leonard Leo, who are just abusing and going to war with these poor homeless people. And then when Gavin Newsom is doing it, well, he's just trying to defend himself. Poor Gavin Newsom. He has no choice but to wipe these poor homeless people off the streets. If he didn't do that, then he wouldn't win an election. He's got 4 years. He's got to run for president in 4 years. And he's going to have to get some homeless people out of the way now. Poor Gavin Newsom. Those evil right-wing capitalists. A co-founder of the surveillance technology firm Palantir, who decamped to Austin from San Francisco in 2020, Lonsdale denounces, quote, the Marxist idea that American capitalism causes homelessness and that only far-left activism can fix it, end quote. The Cicero Institute has helped transform homelessness policing from a niche fixation of a segment of Silicon Valley into a rallying cry in the culture war, bringing new levels of both visibility and cruelty to the issue. Based. Vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance repeated the Cicero Institute's talking points at a Senate hearing last year, and some of the group's preferred measures are included in Project 2025. Ding, 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 ding. The conservative blueprint for a second Trump term. Those measures include eliminating funding for the kind of permanent supportive housing assistance that's helping Jones get back on his feet in Austin. At least 100 cities nationwide already have laws in the books prohibiting sleeping or lying down in public spaces, but in the Cicero Institute's approach, advocates see something more alarming. A push to defund long-term solutions and instead force municipalities to sweep the housing affordability crisis under the rug through increasingly draconian measures. So in other words, instead of turning homelessness into an extremely profitable money laundering operation, we need to actually solve the problem. Get the people off the streets. There's institutions that they can be put into where they can earn their way back out on the streets and ensure that they're able to actually take care of themselves and don't have to be vagrants wandering around. And if they can't do that, then they're going to remain there institutionalized where they'll be provided for, they'll be given meals and maybe they can be educated or they can be given little jobs, or this is the way you solve the homelessness problem. This is one of the ways. So yes, increasingly draconian. That's what you need to solve the problem. Because setting up liberal NGOs to harvest homeless people and incentivize creating homeless people so that they can sustain their NGOs, so they can keep their government budgets to just ride along on the backs of the homeless people while pretending they care about them, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Template state legislation authored by the group allows a fine of up to $5,000 for repeat violations of camping bans and makes it easier to commit people to psychiatric institutions. It also financially punishes cities with higher than average rates of homelessness and redirects funding for permanent housing to short-term shelters. They are going across the board. If you have a higher than average rate of homelessness, your city is going to be punished. Elements of the group's cut and paste bill have now been introduced in 15 states and passed in 8, according to the National Law Center on Homelessness and Poverty. Utah, Texas, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Florida, and Missouri. though the Missouri Supreme Court overturned its ban. The Cicero Institute also advocates legislation allowing new private prisons to enter the market and empowering governors to circumvent elected attorneys general by appointing special prosecutors to combat public lawlessness. The group's political arm has spent at least $1.3 million on lobbying to date, according to federal tax filings, which means it's honestly not really that big. $1.3 million? One of Lonsdale's companies, Lonsdale Enterprises, has also donated more than $100,000 to Republican politicians, including $50,000 to a committee controlled by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who was the headliner at a Cicero Institute event last spring, and more than $500,000 to the Republican Governors Association. At the same time, this $1.3 million is going to be spent a lot more efficiently than the $103 million that an equivalent NGO would be a leftist regime NGO. You'd put $103 million and it's just going to go toward, securing elections. And so then she's going to whine and complain about it. And I think that was the gist of, she gives some background about Reagan. This is actually something else very interesting about it. Let's see where we're going to pick this up. We'll just say into the fray stepped the newly formed Cicero Institute, which Lonsdale incorporated in 2020, according to tax records, and where he serves as board chair. After relocating from California to Texas the same year, Lonsdale quickly made inroads in Abbott world. The governor's former chief of staff is a senior advisor to 8VC, Lonsdale's venture capital firm. Abbott's daughter is its events coordinator. So we're seeing more crossover between the Silicon Valley PayPal mafia world and the Republican establishment. It's very interesting seeing how Abbott has managed to just objectively be a very good governor for his state. The way he's been luring Elon over and now making these inroads into Silicon Valley and pulling the good people out and bringing them to the state and bringing all of that industry here. There's a reason why I think that Texas is on pace to become the new American capital within the next few to several decades. When Abbott proposed a first-of-its-kind statewide camping ban in 2021 with penalties for counties and municipalities that didn't comply, Cicero Institute staff testified on behalf of the bill, and the group's political arm spent at least $93,000 lobbying Texas officials that year, according to disclosures. The state's camping ban passed, and Lonsdale's group took Abbott's playbook on the road. Anyways, I think that was the extent of what I was going to share from this article here. Lonsdale's an interesting guy to follow. I'll say, from having followed him pretty closely and listening to a lot of what he talks about, he and I definitely see the world very differently in a lot of ways. And some of you out there are probably really not going to like certain aspects of him. I'll just put it that way. But I absolutely can share a country with him. He wants to share a country with me. He wants me to have a prosperous country where I can be successful. So I'm more than happy to be friends with him. Remember, we read that article or that letter that was written from the European Commissar about written to Elon about having Trump on the platform, the Digital Services Act, and all that. Thierry Breton. Well, something interesting happened with that story. Headline here from the Financial Times: Brussels slaps down Thierry Breton over harmful content letter to Elon Musk. The Internal Market Commissioner's warning to owner of social media site X was not approved. Brussels has accused its Internal Market Commissioner of going rogue by sending a letter to Elon Musk threatening punishment if content posted on social media site X was found to place EU citizens at risk of, quote, serious harm. Thierry Breton, the French commissioner, had posted the warning letter on X, the platform owned by Musk, hours before the billionaire interviewed U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump, also on X. On Tuesday, the European Commission denied Breton had approval from its president, Ursula von der Leyen, to send the letter. Quote, the timing and wording of the letter were neither coordinated or agreed with the president nor with the commissioners, it said. An EU official who asked not to be named said Thierry has his own mind and way of working and thinking. The commission has been investigating X, formerly Twitter, since last year over claims of noncompliance with its landmark Digital Services Act passed in 2022, which aims to bring into line the growing power of social media platforms. On Tuesday, the commission added, quote, the investigation on dissemination of illegal content and information manipulation is ongoing. We are looking into it. And of course, everything that happens on the platform feeds into this assessment, close quote. Actually, continuing, the response of X to the management of this type of content is taken into account in the course of the investigation, end quote. Breton's letter was sent against the background of increased fears in Europe about the spread of disinformation on X, yada, 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 yada. Officials close to Breton said the letter had been planned for some time and that the interview, hailed by Musk as unprecedented, seemed an appropriate trigger point for publishing. Breton is empowered to oversee enforcement of the DSA and can communicate independently with companies. In his letter, he cited the upcoming interview and said he was compelled to remind Musk as the, quote, individual entity ultimately controlling a platform with over 30 million users worldwide, of which 130 blah, 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 blah. Musk responded to the letter from Breton with a meme from the 2008 film Tropic Thunder that showed one character yelling, quote, take a big step back and literally fuck your own face. Isn't this is kind of surreal reading this. This whole story, this entire story is surreal. We have some weird-looking dude from Europe. I guess, granted, Elon's kind of weird-looking, and everyone in Europe is weird. So, yeah. Anyways, he sends a letter. Okay, we gotta lay this whole story out. So, the guy who basically owns the American space program and controls the military satellite system and owns the global town square decides that he's going to host on that town square the president, the sure-to-be incoming president who he is supporting. And they're going to have a 3-hour rambling conversation about all sorts of different things. And in anticipation of that, and this is the president who was formerly banned from this platform, that the guy bought the platform because he was banned from it. And that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. So they're going to sit down and have a conversation, and this goofy-looking European egghead sends a letter to him threatening to investigate him and to do stuff to him if he hosts a conversation with a presidential candidate and interviews him on a platform. And then the EU throws him to the wolves. They're like, no. We did not approve that. So we've got like a breaking in the narrative here. No longer are they in lockstep with one another. They're trying to cover their own ass. And in the course of all of this, said billionaire who owns all of these things is like, the story of his life alone is almost impossible to believe. He responds to him with a meme and tells him to go fuck his own face. And then the Financial Times actually prints the entire text of it. They don't just do their typical, what's the typical regime line would be something like, I don't know, he responded with a vulgar meme. No, they actually write the entire thing out exactly as it happened. A Trump campaign spokesperson responded by saying, quote, the European Union should mind their own business instead of trying to meddle in the U.S. presidential election, end quote. An EU official said Breton had taken note of Musk's reply, but was still expecting a more formal response. Quote, we don't have to comment or react whenever there is a tweet, whether it's a bonjour or a reference to a movie, the official said. I think they've got their formal response. So I can't imagine someone blackpilling. It's just too good. All of this is just too good. So if you listen to that conversation between Trump and Elon, they talked about, for a little while, they talked about nuclear. And one thing that they agreed on as they were debating it is that it has a branding problem. This is something that Trump said. He said, it's people hear nuclear and so people don't want to look into nuclear energy and stuff because they think it's all scary. So they talked about having a branding problem. And in real time, Devin Erickson, who's a great follow on Twitter, he's an author, writes sci-fi, and has some nice long tweets. He immediately got to work on the idea that it has a branding problem. And he tweeted this out, and as soon as the interview was over, somehow Elon saw it and responded to it and signal boosted it. So Devin Erickson says, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are talking about how nuclear power is a good idea as part of a national energy solution. I disagree. Nuclear power is obviously bad because it contains the word nuclear, which is bad. I propose we use radiothermal steam generation instead. For those of you who are not familiar with how this works, 1, you take some naturally occurring radioactive rocks, which get hot all by themselves because they're radioactive. You pile a whole lot of them together in concentrated form until they get really hot indeed. Then you use that heat to turn water into steam. and you run an electric turbine off the steam pressure. That's all it is, just radioactive rocks in a steam engine. This is much less dangerous than nuclear plants because nuclear plants use the word nuclear, which is the same word used by nuclear weapons, which are very dangerous. So that word is very dangerous, so nuclear plants are very dangerous because they use the same word. Down with nuclear power. Build more radiothermal steam generators. And then there was some good, so here's Musk's response to him. And there were some other good additions to this. See if I can find some of them. Yeah, the Bob Ross explanation. And he says, we're just going to put these happy little rocks in some water. Base Bev Jesus says elemental energy. This guy says, Chase Mann says, I'm on board except for the radioactive rocks. That sounds pretty scary. How about we use some cool alpha particle emitting rocks instead? Those sound fun. Someone said, excellent points, but for all us dummies, what was the Chernobyl disaster all about? And he says, communists not being able to do anything right because they are communists. Someone doesn't get the joke, of course. I think I see this guy getting dunked on like this fairly often. Maybe I'm mistaking him with someone else. Jordan Hall says, good heavens, man. Everyone knows that nuclear waste is radioactive. Definitely don't use radioactive rocks. Instead, might I suggest naturally energetic rocks with which to make your steam? So the posting is good. Speaking of good posts, Jason from the 2-Bit podcast. He has some thoughts, but first, before we read his thoughts about Mimetics, we're going to see what he's reacting to. And this, as we're speaking about the absolute insanity that is the story of Elon Musk, here we have posted on Elon Musk's platform a video of him and Donald Trump dancing made by AI being posted by a senator in the United States. The hits keep coming, folks. We live in a crazy world. He's his best campaign video ever. Elon Musk and real Donald Trump have moves.
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk. I'm a woman's man. No time to talk. Music loud, women want being kicked around since I was born. Never tolerate, I don't hate, and you may look the other way, but we can try to understand and do your time to make no man. Whether you're a brother away, you're a nothing, staying alive, staying alive. Feel the city breaking and everybody shaking, staying alive, staying alive.
How can you say that the meme energy isn't like it was in 2016? These people are out of their minds. This is incredible. Elon retweeted it and said, or reposted it and said like, haters will say this is AI. Elon's digging it. 43 million views. Good grief. So, Jason has some great thoughts. The grumpy man down in Australia. He's going to bless us with some wisdom. We talk about mimetics a lot here, and Jason is the guy for mimetic wisdom. He says, here's a quick lesson in how comparative mimetics works. People want to be like Musk and Trump, young men especially, but they are desirable across demographics. They don't just desire what these two men have. They want to be like them, dress like them, succeed like them, overcome adversity like them. The model becomes a symbol unto themselves. Nobody wants to be like Harris Walls. Folks might already see themselves in those two, but the loopy wine-on and the creepy moist man are not heroic archetypes for a reason. The recent schizo Mommy Harris Daddy Walls posts help prove this. Essentially, Harris and Walls are so unlikable, their fan base has to project personal fantasy models onto them to try and make them palpable. Does this mean that Harris and Walls are sure to lose, even in a completely fair and above-board election? No. But what it does mean is that even if they win, they lose, just like old Joe did. People trust and follow those that they most want to be like. They also enter into rivalrous feuds with them, but let's stay on target. The regime might be able to keep this dog and pony show going for a little bit longer, but ultimately it's going to fail because it cannot model itself effectively to the people anymore. The regime is cringe and it shows. Now please enjoy the AI dancing. We're going to watch it again.
I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. Music loud, women want being kicked around since I was born. Never tolerate, I don't hate, and you may look the other way, but we can try to understand and do your time to make no man. Whether you're a brother away, you're a nothing.
That's worth demonetizing the stream for. More white pills. I've been loving this guy's posts lately. Cosmos Russian. He's been posting bangers. But an even bigger banger came from Trump War Room. The Trump War Room account tweeted this. Your neighborhood under Trump, your neighborhood under Kamala. They said, import the third world, become the third world. Dare I say, patriots in control. And yet some will still blackpill. He says, can't get over how powerful this is. Completely unheard of in the GOP before Trump. Whoa, said the Chamber of Commerce should be terrified. That's a good point. It's worth looking at things like this and then going back to think about what Groyper War II really is. If you can't comprehend that it is simply a misinformation campaign of the deep state against Trump, you're functionally retarded. All over Zionism and Jews. Could not agree more. All right, so I had a tab open there that I'm not going to get into that today. I forgot that I had that open. We've been talking about Trump's ground game and how it is actually everyone wants to say, everyone's trying to meme into reality the idea that Trump has a low energy campaign, that the campaign's going poorly, that it's not connecting with people, that they're doomed, they're not doing enough, they're just going to steal it again. And I mean, ignoring the fact that there's been countless stories about how this is totally obviously not the case. And you can, you have to be a complete media illiterate to think that's the way that things are progressing right now. And a lot of people really are. Like, I think one of the things, and this may be a Twitter phenomenon, I might have to think about this a little more, but I think the way that Twitter has been unleashed, it has amplified its ability for you to cultivate your circle, to honestly, truly cultivate your section of the internet. And there's a large section of the internet that recognizes what's happening, that sees what's going on, that's actually passing these stories around to each other, and everyone's reading them because we've built our algorithm together. It's overlapping. And then there's some people who are just checked out of that. So they open up Twitter and they look at what's going on, and they've cultivated they've cultivated tweets of anger and rage bait and porn and shit libs crying and all this stuff. They've cultivated that. So that's all they see. And they think that's all that there is. And then they see some big, every once in a while, something pops through their bubble and they see, I don't know, Ashley St. Clair or, some large account that's along those lines posting stuff about, hey guys, I'm kind of worried about Trump. The campaign just seems like it's really low energy and it seems like they're just not, look how much they're being outspent. And a lot of these narratives are being seeded onto the platform by the Harris campaign. The libs are the ones who are starting these narratives. Trump's campaign is low energy. Trump's panicking. He's angry. He's really upset that he picked J.D. Vance and he's thinking about replacing him. He's mad and he just can't get over how stupid Kamala is, and he is embarrassed to have to face her and all these sorts of things. All these narratives are being planted by the Harris campaign. And then you get large right-wing grifters who pick them up and start amplifying them. I honestly think a lot of them are doing it sincerely, because they just see other people talking about it, other people that are in the official fashionable circles, and so it's leaking out onto them, and they're getting insecure about it. And, oh, guys, it seems really bad. We need to pressure him to be better. We need to tell him that he's not doing a good job. When the exact opposite is what is needed. You don't want some AstroTurf campaign about how, Trump can't run a campaign and it's a very failing campaign. Like, who would possibly think that this is going to be good or increase the odds of good things happening? Yeah, Faithful Faustian says it's coming out of the neocon faction as well, right? Which is directly adjacent to the Harris campaign, if you know what I mean. Yeah, women and low T men. They're all talking about this. Meanwhile, you have the Trump War Room account tweeting out, import the third world, become the third world. And then you get stories like this. Scott Pressler, shout out to this guy. This guy knows how to run a ground game. He says, got a list of every FFL company in Pennsylvania. Our team is visiting as many as we can to ask gun store owners if they will keep voter registration forms at their businesses. I'm calling upon every gun store in America to carry voter forms. And another one, Jack Posobiec says, Tim Walz just announced a bus tour through Pennsylvania. You know what to do. And Scott said, are you saying that Pennsylvania veterans should show up at every single event with Stolen Valor Tim Walz signs? This is the type of stuff I'm talking about. It's brilliant. Forcing the narrative, keeping them on their heels, forcing them to address this stuff, forcing them to talk about it. Because the way Twitter is now, all it takes is someone like Scott Pressler and his group of people to go create a story, and it will be amplified into the national media. The national media will not be able to ignore it. They can't black it out. Perhaps the clearest example of this is July 13. The events of July 13, prior to the unleashing of Twitter, would have never gotten to us. You would not have this entire cottage industry of people analyzing video from every possible angle, counting the shots, analyzing the audio signatures, digging into tracking people's cell phones and all this shit, actually investigating it. That would have never happened. We probably would have never seen video of it. It would have been very closely edited, specific shots closely edited to make it look as bad as possible. We may have never even seen Trump again. They may have just disappeared him because they could have. But with the takeover of Twitter, it's no longer possible. This is why the regime is completely reactive and reeling constantly. They're collapsing under their own incompetence and under the great disinfectant. There's some interesting polling that's happening right now. By and large, I think that the polling is bullshit. It's so obviously bullshit. You can see in stories like this, the way that they're making the bullshit. It's being called out and amplified and highlighted and spread virally over the internet in real time as they're trying to use the internet to craft their narratives. But the fact that the polling is bullshit doesn't mean the stories about the polling are bullshit. There are stories here. Like, for example, general election poll, this is from Economist and YouGov, has Harris at +2, 46 to Trump's 44 with RFK at 3%. Now, leaving aside that I don't think RFK is going to actually run, and the vast majority of his 3% is going to go to Trump. I mean, even this is taking the poll at face value. YouGov's last poll was a D +6 and produced a Harris +2. A week later, they had to overrepresent to D +10 to maintain a Harris +2. This is an intentional manipulation to produce a desired result. So they're oversampling. They're oversampling Democrats to achieve this result. Which means, if you're going to take this at face value, if they had to change from a D +6 to a D +10, why would they make a change like this to maintain that number if sentiment wasn't actively moving away from her? Here's the sample used to get the Harris +2. 528 Democrats, 389 Republicans, and 487 independents. Monmouth poll used a sample that contained only 38% of Trump's 2020 voters. They're oversampling Democrats and getting the polls that they're releasing that show Kamala ostensibly up are actually devastating. Another one, real political data. He said, I decided to look at the swings of certain demographics from the New York Times final Pennsylvania poll from 2020 compared to their poll released just a few days ago. Notice anything? Now, again, you take all this with a grain of salt, like recognizing the polls are fake. There's nothing conclusive to take from them. But the outlier results definitely are something worth putting a pen in to circle back to later on. You remember I said notoriously the story is always that the young people don't turn out. There's the young people don't vote. Voter turnout's really low. They're overwhelmingly liberal. They gradually get conservative as they get older. It's possible that that's how this election will go. But in a hypothetical, if you're capable of considering a hypothetical or a counterfactual, suppose 4 months from now, 5 months from now, we look back and we say, wow, the 18 to 29 demographic turned out way more than they usually do, and they were surprisingly pro-Trump. This is assuming that the actual results reflected any sort of reality, but just run with the story here. In hindsight, we would have a story for that already. So look at this. So this is from Pennsylvania, which I remind you, according to their own numbers, if Trump wins Pennsylvania, he wins 96% of the time. So the New York Times, state, Pennsylvania. So 2020, you've got male, female, or you've got male from 2020 to 24 stayed the same. No swing. Trump +3. Female went from Biden +14 to Harris +7. So it had a 7-point move toward Trump. This is the most fascinating one. Actually, the bottom one's pretty fascinating too, but this one in particular, 18 to 29, went from Biden +30 to Harris +2, a 28-point swing toward Trump. What's interesting about the 18 to 29 demographic is it includes new voters who have never voted before. Because the 18 to 29 sampled in 2020 are not all the same people as the 18 to 29 sampled in 2024. Because some of these 18 to 29 were 14. Between 14 and 18 in 2020. So is this swing the same group of people changing their minds? Or is this a new demographic coming in that is much more inclined toward Trump than Harris? Or is it a combination of the two? I'd imagine a swing like that, I'd imagine is probably a combination of the two. The only demographic that moved leftward was the 30 to 44 demographic. RIP to the millennials. They went from Trump +2 to Harris +4. The 45 to 64s went from Trump +3 to Trump +4. 65 and over went from Biden +12 to Harris +7. So they moved in Trump's direction 5 points. Whites went from Trump +1 to Trump +3. This is the other interesting one. Non-whites went from Biden +52 to Harris +23. So they're still overwhelmingly in the Harris camp, but that's the largest swing on the board here. And I wouldn't be surprised, given how Harris's record with minorities has always been. Harris is 100% the millennial white lady candidate. That's the only demographic that she's popular with. That and the old, I don't want to be, I need to be gracious. The David French graphic. So yeah, this is, again, the polls are fake. But if the polls are fake, why are they showing things like this? There was also, Kate mentions the Bernie Sanders poll was brutal. It has her neck and neck with Trump, but a far left poll that's skewed already in her favor is embarrassing. And I didn't pull up the numbers for that, but there was a Bernie Sanders sponsored poll that was done. And I don't remember the demographics or anything. If someone has a link to it and you can drop it in the chat here, then that would be cool. I'll put it up there. But it was a Bernie Sanders poll that had, it was also oversampled to Democrats, and it had them neck and neck. So you have a far left poll oversampling Democrats, and it has her neck and neck. Like they're having to bend over backwards to make it look like this. Why would they have to bend over backwards to do that? They would have to bend over backwards to do that if their perception is that Trump's appeal is far ahead of Kamala's appeal. And I've heard some links, I can't substantiate them at all from just pure gossip, but I've heard some chatter from people that the internal numbers that the Kamala camp has are catastrophic for her. And that's why they've got these massive PSYOP campaigns going on because they know what the actual numbers are. So that would mean their perception of the electorate is that Trump is a vastly more appealing candidate, which would mean, by default, he must be running a better campaign. People must find him more attractive than the alternative. That would be the data behind the data. And yet some people think it's a good thing to go out and spread, like, try to meme into reality the idea that Trump's running a bad campaign. I think some of these people mean well and they're just retarded. They're like, oh, well, if we publicly chastise him and whine and complain loudly about how bad his campaign is, then he'll get better. When all you're doing is you're seeding the narrative that he doesn't know how to run a campaign and he's incompetent and he's surrounded by snakes and he's not actually going to do anything. That's what you do when you spread that narrative. Stop doing that. No fucking blackpilling. There's another consistent drumbeat that's happening. July voter registration change, Arizona. Republicans plus almost 20,000, basically 20,000. Democrats plus 3,500. I thought there was no ground game. I thought they haven't changed anything. They're just sailing into the election, just thinking they're not taking seriously any of the election fortification stuff. It's just the same old GOP. So why is it that all across the country, the Republican voter registration rolls are like quintupling Democrats? Who's doing all of this? Where's this coming from? Andrew, politically Catholic, says, Matt, RCP takes an average of all polls and compares them to where candidates stood in prior election cycles. Hillary Clinton was much farther ahead of Trump at this day in 2016. Yeah, we saw how that turned out. Clinton was plus 6.8 on this day in 2016. Kamala's only plus 1.1. So, putting those things together, then, you have the wildly biased polls that are oversampling to try to get this result. Trump blew the doors off of Hillary in 2016, and he's wildly ahead of where he was then. Stop fucking blackpilling. Get on board. Biden was plus 7.7 over Trump this day in 2020. This guy here says the GOP, this is Eric Doherty. I've been seeing his tweets coming up more lately. Florida Voice News Assistant News Director. I'll follow him. I'll see his tweets even more. He said, update, GOP on the verge of outnumbering Dems in the early mail-in vote by 7%. So at this point in the 2020 primary, the margin was Dems by 10.27%. 2022 primary, Dems by about 6%. 2024 primary, it's Republicans by 7%. He says the GOP overperformance is so stark, it's hard to even extrapolate it to the November general. We really also need to see how early in mail-ins go come September and October. Are all these Dems just waiting for November? I think NPAs is no party affiliation. Do NPAs skew hard left now? What do you think? Do you think the no party affiliated people are no party affiliated because they've just been waiting for a Kamala to show up for them and they're super excited to go out and vote for Kamala? I mean, I find that very hard to believe, and I don't see what utility there is in like overcorrecting on that side. What all of this, you could hold all of this very lightly, and you still have to recognize that there is a significant ground game going on right now. It's not being reported on. People aren't talking about it. Beyond this sort of thing, they're talking about it obliquely. But all of this bullshit about how the RNC it's just the same old Republicans. They're not taking this seriously. They have no ground game. They're not prepared. They're just going to steal it, and they're going to be left standing holding the bag. This is completely fact-free analysis. Which leads me to believe the only reason someone would be doing this is because they're either just hopelessly, profoundly retarded, or they're trying to will this into reality. Because their entire station depends upon shit being bad and getting shittier. Don't let these people populate the bandwidth in your mind. You don't have room for them in your life. You can't afford it. Cleanse your timeline. Purge these people from your life. Don't listen to them. You don't have to listen to me. You should listen to the last thing I said. You don't have to listen to anything else. But I'm telling you, for your own sake, get these people out of your life. Don't listen to them. So here's a group we haven't heard about in a while. Project Veritas. No longer affiliated with James O'Keefe, but they still doing some of the same work. So they say dozens of sources and no idea. I'm sure that this is this is a Michigan state. There's a Michigan city, and Michigan city's names are pronounced all fucky. So I have no idea if Hamtramck. I have no idea how it's actually pronounced. It's probably pronounced like Bob or something. Dozens of sources in Bob, Michigan, told Project Veritas that Muslim politicians are using illegal ballot harvesting operations to secure permanent power. We contacted Bob City Councilman Mohammed Hassan and Abu Musa with an opportunity to acquire what they believe to be ballots gathered for their benefit. Rather than rejecting the illegal offer, both councilmen agreed to meet our journalists to retrieve the imaginary illegal ballots and explained how they could get those fraudulent ballots counted by dropping them into a ballot drop box. So we're going to speed this up a little bit while we play it.
To see how these alleged ballot harvesters would react to receiving numerous unmarked absentee ballots out of thin air, our journalists contacted Councilman Hassan and Musa and offered them.
It's funny that whoever they have now doing this, they got like a James O'Keefe voice double to do the voiceovers.
An opportunity to acquire what they believe to be a bunch of unmarked ballots gathered for their benefit.
We have a lot of our citizens who are from, are immigrants and don't speak English and don't understand the process. A brother from the mosque was able to gather some of their ballots that they didn't know what to do with them. So we're a little lost. He left them on a porch in a package.
This is the trap. We have to see the name. Is the Muslim or not?
The ballots, yes, they're from Muslims, and there are some that are also from the Ukrainian immigrants. There's about I want to say 43 ballots, but they don't understand how to fill them out, so they left them blank, and we kind of compiled them. He left them there.
If it is not signed, okay, give me the address. I will go there. If it is everything good, we can drop to the city hall. City hall parking lot has the box. We can drop it to there. Hello.
Hello, brother Abu Musa.
Yes, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, brother. How are you?
Good.
A lot of brothers and sisters didn't know how to fill out their ballots, and we even met some Ukrainians who, part of the Ummah, and so they left their ballots. There's a bag. It's an abandoned house, but there's a small package on the doorstep. If you could have someone grab it, we just don't want those to go to waste. So, if you could just pick those up, they're right there.
Hey man, you touched my heart, brother. Thank you very much.
And they get together late at night. They jokingly call it like the midnight meetings.
The midnight
meetings, I guess. So then they auction them. They bid for them.
And you know this how? You heard like
Bits and pieces from lots of different people.
they auction for ballots.
Yeah. People who have participated in that late night auction before and have been in the room when it's happening have told me about it.
Given the information we received, our journalists arranged a late night get-together of their own with Councilman Abu Musa to warn him that word of the midnight meeting and allegations of voter fraud had come to light. Musa never disavowed the midnight meeting and actually claimed Councilman Hassan admitted to him and others that he paid for 300 ballots in 2023, seemingly confirming Blasey's allegation.
Brother Musa, I gotta tell you, I'm very nervous about this. You're not gonna shoot me, are you?
No, don't worry, man.
So basically, what she's saying is that, what I was told is that Hassan is mad at the mayor for making you mayor pro tem, and that he wants to expose the city council members and the mayor for doing stuff with ballots. She's saying they get black people, that Hassan was saying that they get black people and they pay them $20 or $30 for their ballot. They have midnight meetings. Then they auction them. Did you hear that?
Everybody knows. Whole community knows.
But is it true that he paid for 300 ballots? That's what they told me. The queer lady in the video says, in the audio says that he paid. I don't know if you heard, but we know that he paid for 300 ballots.
Sometimes he says so. I don't have any proof.
He paid for the ballots. That it's actually him.
He told the people, yeah, I get those things. If somebody properly or improperly handle the ballot, he's the one.
Very, very interesting. Seeing behind the scenes, seeing how the sausage is made. Now, if only we had some sort of badass attorney general who would be interested in these sorts of things and might facilitate a culture of bringing these things to light and hammering away on them. If only such a man existed. The Texas Chad himself, Attorney General Ken Paxton, has been on a rampage lately. So this is breaking. This is from tweeted out yesterday. Breaking. We're suing General Motors for unlawfully collecting drivers' private data and selling it to several companies, including insurance companies. Our investigation revealed that General Motors has engaged in egregious business practices that violated Texans' privacy and broke the law. We will hold them accountable. The companies are using invasive technology to violate the rights of our citizens in unthinkable ways. Millions of American drivers wanted to buy a car, not a comprehensive surveillance system that unlawfully records information about every drive they take and sells their data to any company willing to pay for it. This is the letter that he wrote. This is Attorney General Ken Paxton sues General Motors for unlawfully collecting drivers' private data and selling it to several companies, including insurance companies. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton and General Motors sues General Motors for its false, deceptive, and misleading business practices related to its unlawful collection and sale of over 1.5 million Texans' private driving data to insurance companies without their knowledge or consent. This action follows Attorney General Paxton's June 2024 announcement that he opened an investigation into several car manufacturers regarding allegations that the companies had improperly collected mass amounts of data about drivers directly from the vehicles and then sold the information to third parties. Quote, our investigation revealed that General Motors has engaged in egregious business practices that violated Texans' privacy and broke the law. We will hold them accountable, said Attorney General Ken Paxton. Companies are using invasive technology to violate the rights of our citizens in unthinkable ways. Millions of American drivers wanted to buy a car, not a comprehensive surveillance system that unlawfully records information about every drive they take and sells their data to any company willing to pay for it. End quote. General Motors used technology installed in most 2015 model year or newer GM vehicles to collect, record, analyze, and transmit highly detailed driving data about each time a driver used their vehicle. General Motors sold this information to several other companies, including to at least two companies, for the purpose of generating, quote, driving scores about GM's customers and selling these scores to insurance companies. General Motors deceived many of its customers when it compelled them to enroll in its products, including OnStar's Smart Driver, as part of its vehicle onboarding process, and told them that failing to enroll would result in the deactivation of their vehicle safety features. Unbeknownst to customers, however, by enrolling in GM's products, they were, quote, agreeing to General Motors' collection and sale of their data. Despite lengthy and convoluted disclosures, General Motors never informed their customers of its actual conduct, the systematic collection and sale of their highly detailed driving data. The investigation was part of a broad data privacy and security initiative launched by Attorney General Paxton in June of 2024 to ensure that companies respect Texans' privacy rights and enforce privacy protection laws. And right on the heels of that one, today, he tweeted out this, breaking. I have sent a notice letter to the city of Dallas directing it to withdraw the statement made by the State Fair of Texas, the organization contracted to run Fair Park during the annual event, that prohibits citizens from lawfully carrying a firearm on the premise. Texas law clearly states that license to carry holders may not be prevented from carrying a firearm on property owned or leased by the government unless otherwise prevented by state statute. The State Fair of Texas's recent policy that infringes on LTC holders' Second Amendment rights is unlawful. Dallas has 15 days to fix the issue. Otherwise, I will see them in court. And reading from the article, it says Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton sent a notice letter to the city of Dallas directing it to withdraw the statement made by the State Fair of Texas, the organization contracted to run Fair Park during the annual event that prohibits citizens from lawfully carrying a firearm on the premise. In 2002, the city of Dallas entered into a 25-year lease with the State Fair of Texas. authorizing the nonprofit organization to take control of the governmental function of Fair Park during the 24 days of the annual event. The state fair, however, has now announced that it will prohibit persons with a license to carry firearms from carrying on the park grounds during that period. Such a rule directly violates state law, which permits licensed gun owners to lawfully carry in places owned or leased by governmental entities unless otherwise prohibited by state law. Since Fair Park is owned by the city of Dallas, the Office of the Attorney General views the statement issued by the State Fair of Texas as an unlawful infringement on Texas LTC holders' legal rights. Attorney General Paxton concluded that legal action is warranted and gave the city of Dallas 15 days to correct course before he will file suit to seek injunctive relief and collect civil penalties. Quote, Texas law clearly states that licensed to carry holders may not be prevented from carrying a firearm on property owned or leased by the government unless otherwise prevented by state statute, said Attorney General Paxton. The State Fair of Texas' recent policy that infringes on LTC holders' Second Amendment rights is unlawful. Dallas has 15 days to fix the issue. Otherwise, I will see them in court. Just want to keep you guys abreast of the white pills. And speaking of Mimetics, the more, even if somebody wanted to be really jaded and cynical and say, oh, he's just doing this for the headlines and yeah, it's just the empty threats and whatever else, he's laying down the groundwork for other attorneys general to do the same. We just need to get other attorneys general who will do the same. And there are some out there. I think what happened at the Texas border earlier this year could very well have been a dry run for seeing what sort of coordination there is and what sort of will there is among the various Republican governors and state legislatures to back a state like Texas going out on a limb over a direct confrontation with the federal government. And I'd say that dry run, I think it worked pretty well. And it's crazy to think about just how much has changed since then. This will become very relevant, I believe. So this sort of thing needs to be praised and amplified, and guys like Ken Paxton, when they do this sort of thing, need to get all the attaboys in the world. Get that energy up. All right. Last story of the day. James Poulos is one of my favorite people on the internet. He wrote an article here for Blaze Media. Brilliant headline. Tech's most mysterious and controversial new account followed me on X. Is it the Antichrist? James Poulos, August 12, 2024. Rumors are swirling that a radically advanced version of AI is breaking loose. Is it a bot? Is it a person? The internet can't say for sure, and techies are going nuts arguing over it all. Meet @IRuleTheWorldMo, an out of nowhere account that almost immediately drew replies from the likes of Sam Altman due to its seemingly acute insider knowledge of impending breakthroughs in so-called artificial general intelligence, or more pretentious still, so-called artificial superintelligence. Deep dives into the mysterious provenance of @IRuleTheWorldMo are already out there. Check out Digital Heresy's trip down the rabbit hole for a relatively quick primer, which begins with this basic info. QStar. QStar is a secret project code thing that OpenAI and others have been hinting at as some kind of secret sauce algorithm going into the next-gen model. Summaries like this post have pieced together that QStar represents a fusion of reinforcement learning and heuristic search to advance AI's problem-solving capabilities, particularly in complex logical tasks. It embodies a move toward more human-like reasoning and self-learning abilities with potential implications for improving the reliability and generalization of AI systems. And Strawberry. Now that it's done training the model and getting close to release, the hype train has ramped up, culminating in this new association between QStar and Strawberry, which seems to be the street name for the LLM. I managed to catch a follow from the Strawberry emoji-laden account with a tonally ambiguous reply. It was already clear to me that @IRuleTheWorldMo was dedicated to the idea that humanity was about to be radically transformed by technology that the account owner had a hand in building and or controlling. So my reaction to its response to my reply was to post a quote from the great monk, theologian, and writer St. John Climacus, author of The Ladder of Divine Ascent, an enormously influential manual of ascetic spiritual instruction. Quote, "Many have received salvation without prophecies and revelations, without signs and wonders. But without humility, no one will enter the marriage chamber. That is," close quote, "that is the kingdom of God where union with the Lord awaits." That didn't elicit a reply. Not surprising coming from an account that also posted, quote, "I am Moloch, destroyer of worlds," end quote. But that's not what I came here to warn you about. Because in addition to the Moloch posting, @IRuleTheWorldMo also posted that, quote, "Jesus would want UBI, fairly sure," end quote. UBI, meaning Universal Basic Income, shilled since the pre-AI era as a way to ratchet closer to universal justice in this world. Not so coincidentally, it was recently revealed that Altman's OpenAI funded a big UBI study that concluded with worse than mixed results. Altman himself is nevertheless on record not only supporting UBI, but what he calls Universal Basic Compute, a conceptual rival to the Second Amendment for compute that I and others have been pushing for these past several years. As noted here, OpenAI wants to register GPUs like anti-gun politicians want to register firearms. A Second Amendment for compute, which I have also laid out as a part of a broader digital rights amendment, would discourage that and the relentless centralization and control of how we use increasingly powerful computation and don't. This particular issue right here, OpenAI wanting to register GPUs like anti-gun politicians want to register firearms. I haven't heard anybody else frame this in the way that Poulos does, particularly the idea of a Second Amendment for compute. But this is the big issue, or one of the big issues, that Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz identified as motivating their move toward Trump, is the phenomenon within Silicon Valley of these always very closely aligned with Democrat donors and politicians. These guys who want to heavily regulate AI. The open source versus closed source debate. Altman's and at I Rule the World MO's approach to compute, complete with the use of Altman's creepy and sometimes explicitly illegal WorldCoin, is essentially to impose on every person a new cyborg identity as parts of a planetary computational whole. As disturbing or frightening as this future might be to most of the world's normal human beings, the real trouble is exposed by that pesky reference to Jesus. I've half joked in the past that Altman seems to be auditioning for the part of the Antichrist. The attempt to associate Jesus with UBI, and by proxy, Universal Basic Compute, underscores what's at stake. Now, the following point is a little inside baseball, but it's important. We'll all have to get used to becoming acquainted with more stuff like this as digital tech pushes us ever harder into theological territory. Keeping in mind that the ladder of divine ascent emphasizes how the successful, proper, and true spiritual life demands ascetic disciplines and practices, another, much later theologian, Bishop Ignatius Briankanonov, wrote in the 19th century against a much different spiritual guide that had become increasingly popular in the West, Thomas A. Kempis's Imitation of Christ. The problem with that text, the bishop observed, was that it, quote, conducts the reader directly into communion with God without previous purification by repentance, end quote, deluding the reader into, quote, rapture from a delight and intoxication attained without difficulty, without self-denunciation, without repentance, without crucifixion of the flesh with its passions and desires, Galatians 5:24, with flattery of their fallen state, end quote. Imitation of the Lord is impossible without first and always exerting ascetic discipline, which hinges at all times on resisting and denying the tempting desire to be spiritually worthy of exalted feelings and ecstatic experiences. But what could be more powerful an inducement to give into that temptation than a digital God built to provide a massive, never-ending immersive simulation of just those feelings and experiences? Many mistakenly assume that the epitome of the Antichrist is the person who most imitates the devil. In fact, Antichrist, any Antichrist, strives for power and authority by seeming to offer what people seek from God while also doing away with God by replacing him. In other words, Antichrist simulates Christ. And in a world where compute that automatically simulates everything and anything is propagandized as utterly transformative AGI or ASI, the temptation to simulate Christ will become immense for believers and unbelievers alike. Quote, "Let us be warned from this," wrote the far-seeing Father Seraphim Rose. "The religion of the future will not be a mere cult or sect, but a powerful and profound religious orientation that will be absolutely convincing to the mind and heart of modern man," end quote. Contrary to our earthly wishes, according to Saint Nectarios of Aegina, quote, "We have deep-rooted infirmities, passions, and flaws, many of which are hereditary. They are corrected not suddenly, but rather with patience and perseverance. Any bot or human trying to direct technology to transform us out of our sacred God-created form into another will lead not to salvation, but obliteration." So you guys can follow James Poulos on Blaze Media. He's the host of Zero Hour on Blaze TV, and he's at James Poulos on Twitter. Very good follow. Very much one of our guys. And I agree heartily with everything he said. I appreciate you guys. Oh, got a super chat. $2 super chat from random username. He says, F. Lasavita, who actively tried to remove Paxton. Yes, indeed. That'd be Chris Lasavita, one of the one of the guys who's leading Trump's campaign right now. All right, well, kept it under 2 hours. I was hoping I'd be able to do that. Got 100 viewing right now, 51 likes. Do me a favor and hit the like button. I appreciate you guys for showing up this afternoon. Thank you for the super chats for those of you who sent them. And I will be back tomorrow morning for another episode of the Astrolabe. It will be an actual morning episode of it. Do me a favor, as I said, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter at RealKingPilled. I'm almost to 8,000 followers. I wonder if I'll get to 8,000 followers by the end of the week. Help me out with that. It's bothering me right now because I'm following 800 something people, but I'm followed by 7,000 something, and I want it to be 8 and 8, and I want to kind of like keep this as far up as I can. I want to be able to follow more people, so I need more people to follow me. This is my autism. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for hanging out. And Hype Man's not here, but I will say it. Join the King Pill Discord. It's a private community, very good group of people. We've had some good conversations going on there, and it's a great way to make some connections with like-minded folks who may have something to offer you. You may have something to offer them. We could start building up some of these back-channel relationships that if things go south in the near future, we will absolutely depend upon them to get by. And if things don't go south in the future, then we will have the beginnings of a foundation for truly building a civilization that we can be proud of, that provides for our children and our grandchildren a life that's better than our own. So, kingpill.com, sign up, and